Phantom in the void. The observation deck of orbital station Aegis offered a perfect view of humanity's last stand. Commander Elena Rice pressed her palm against the reinforced glass, watching as the remnants of Earth's defense fleet formed up. The ships looked small against the vastness of space, too few and too fragile. "How many this time?" she asked, not turning away from the viewport. Admiral Chen sighed heavily beside her. 3 hive carriers, at least 15 destroyer-class vessels. They'll be in weapons range within 6 hours. Elena closed her eyes briefly. The Vex had appeared in Earth's solar system 3 years ago, their massive organic mechanical ships devouring everything in their path. Colonies on Mars and Europa fell within weeks. Earth held on through desperate measures and countless sacrifices, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. "The Council has approved Operation Longshot," Chen said, sliding a data tablet toward her. "You've been selected to command." Elena picked up the tablet, scanning the mission parameters with growing disbelief. "This is based on rumors, sir. Ghost stories told by shell-shocked survivors. We're beyond conventional options, Commander. The Phantom is our only hope." The UES Phantom. Just thinking about the ship sent a chill down Elena's spine. It had been humanity's most advanced warship, equipped with experimental phase shift technology that would have allowed it to slip between dimensions, becoming virtually undetectable. During its maiden voyage 4 years ago, the Phantom and its crew of 200 simply vanished during the jump test. The project was scrapped, the technology deemed too dangerous, until reports started coming in 8 months ago. Ships on the verge of destruction by Vex forces suddenly saved by weapons fire from nowhere. Blurry footage showing the outline of a vessel that appeared for mere seconds before vanishing again. A ghost ship that only hunted the Vex. "The Phantom disappeared with my sister aboard," Elena said quietly. Science Officer Maya Reyes. Admiral Chen nodded solemnly. "I know. That's partly why you were chosen. If anyone can find this ship and make contact, it's you." 6 hours later, Elena stood on the bridge of the UES Harbinger, a fast scout vessel outfitted with the most sensitive detection equipment the human resistance could salvage. Her hand-picked crew of 12 specialists worked silently at their stations as the ship accelerated away from Earth. "Set course for the Procyon system," Elena ordered. That's where the most recent Phantom sighting was reported. Lieutenant Park, her second-in-command, looked up from his console. "Commander, that's deep in Vex-controlled territory, which is exactly where our ghost seems to hunt," Elena replied. "If the Phantom is real, that's where we'll find it." The journey to Procyon took 3 days, even with the Harbinger's advanced engines pushed beyond safety limits. Elena spent the time studying every report, every grainy piece of footage, searching for patterns. The Phantom never stayed visible for more than 30 seconds. It never communicated with human vessels. It only appeared when Vex ships were attacking isolated human outposts or transports. "Almost like it's afraid to be seen," she murmured to herself, watching the footage for the 100th time. "Or unable to remain in our dimension," added Dr. Takashi, the quantum physicist assigned to the mission. The quiet scientist rarely spoke unless directly addressed, but his insights were always worth hearing. The phase technology was designed to shift the ship partially out of our reality. If something went wrong during the test jump, Elena turned to him. "You think they're trapped, caught between dimensions?" Takashi adjusted his glasses. "It would explain the intermittent appearances. They may only be able to shift briefly into our reality before being pulled back." A cold knot formed in Elena's stomach. Her sister, caught in some half-existence for 4 years. The thought was almost worse than believing she had died in an accident. Upon reaching the Procyon system, the Harbinger powered down to minimal systems, drifting silently at the edge of the star's outer planetary ring. Perfect ambush territory for the Vex, and thus, hopefully, hunting grounds for their Phantom. For 2 days, nothing happened. The crew grew restless, Elena most of all. Then, on the 3rd day, the sensors detected a distress signal from a small mining outpost on one of Procyon's moons. "Vex attack in progress," reported Lieutenant Park, his voice tight. "2 destroyer-class vessels. The outpost has minimal defenses." Elena straightened in her command chair. "How long until they detect us?" "If we maintain current emissions, they'll never know we're here." "Good. All sensors at maximum sensitivity. If the Phantom shows up, I want to know everything about it." They didn't have to wait long. 20 minutes into the attack, the sensors picked up an anomaly near the Vex ships. At first, it was just a slight distortion, like heat ripples in air. Then energy readings spiked dramatically. "Something's materializing," called out Ensign Walsh from the sensor station. "Partial phase shift detected." On the main view screen, a section of space seemed to warp. For a brief moment, the outline of a ship appeared, sleek, dark, with the unmistakable profile of an Earth vessel. Before anyone could react, weapons fire erupted from the barely visible ship, striking the first Vex destroyer with surgical precision. The alien vessel's main power core detonated, the explosion tearing it apart. "It's real," Elena whispered. "The Phantom is real." The second Vex ship immediately turned to face its invisible attacker, firing blindly into the space where the Phantom had appeared. Most shots passed harmlessly through empty space, but one struck something solid. For a split second, the Phantom fully materialized, its hull bearing the scars of previous battles, but unmistakably intact. "Lock on to that ship," Elena ordered. "Prepare to transmit on all frequencies." "Commander," Dr. Takashi interrupted, "the quantum fluctuations are increasing. I think it's about to shift away again." Elena made a split-second decision. "Full power to engines. Take us in closer." The Harbinger surged forward, abandoning stealth for speed. On the view screen, the Phantom was already beginning to fade, even as it fired one final volley that crippled the second Vex destroyer. "Transmitting now," Park announced. Elena leaned forward. "UES Phantom, this is Commander Elena Reyes aboard the Harbinger. Maya, if you can hear me, we've come to bring you home." For several agonizing seconds, there was no response. The Phantom continued to fade from view, becoming little more than a hazy outline. Then a burst of static came through the comm system, followed by a distorted voice. "Elena, is that? Can't maintain. Shifting back." Elena's heart leaped into her throat. That voice, altered and breaking up, but she would recognize her sister anywhere. "Maya, we're going to help you. Tell us how." But the Phantom had already vanished completely, leaving only rapidly dissipating energy readings to mark its presence. The damaged Vex destroyer, seemingly forgotten in the exchange, began to retreat from the system. "We lost them," Park said quietly. "No," Elena replied, staring at the now empty space. "We found them. And they're alive." She turned to Dr. Takashi. "You were right. They're trapped between dimensions. We need to find a way to pull them fully back into our reality." The scientist was already analyzing the sensor data. "The quantum signature is unlike anything I've seen. They're existing in a state that should be impossible." He looked up, his expression grave but determined. "But now that we have readings, we can work with this. We can create a resonance field that might stabilize them long enough to attempt a full return." Helena nodded, feeling hope for the first time in years. "Set course back to Aegis. We need to build a quantum anchor, and fast." She cast one last look at the empty space where the Phantom had been. "Hold on, Maya. We're coming for you." As the Harbinger prepared to jump away from Procyon, none of the crew noticed the small Vex scout ship hidden behind one of the system's outer moons, silently recording everything that had transpired before slipping away toward the heart of Vex territory. Breaking the chains. The massive hangar bay of orbital station Aegis had been transformed into a makeshift laboratory. Engineers and scientists worked around the clock, constructing what Dr. Takashi had dubbed the quantum anchor, a device designed to create a stable resonance field that could pull the Phantom fully back into normal space. Elena paced the perimeter, reviewing the latest simulations on her datapad. 3 weeks had passed since their encounter with the Phantom, and every day without progress felt like torture, especially now that she knew her sister was alive, trapped in some half-existence between realities. "Commander Reyes," Dr. Takashi called, waving her over to his workstation. "I think we found something." She hurried to his side, where holographic models of quantum fields swirled in complex patterns. "What is it?" "We've been analyzing the Phantom's energy signature," he explained, manipulating the display to highlight a particular oscillation pattern. "There's a rhythm to their phase shifts, not random, but cyclical, almost like they're trying to control it," Elena finished. "They found a way to navigate between dimensions, even if they can't fully return." Takashi nodded. "Exactly. And if we can predict when and where they'll next attempt to shift into our reality, we can be waiting with the quantum anchor," Elena said, hope surging through her. The scientist's expression grew more serious. "There's something else. The pattern suggests they're growing weaker. Each shift requires enormous energy, and whatever power source they're using appears to be depleting. If we don't reach them soon—" Elena didn't need him to finish. If they couldn't save the Phantom soon, her sister and the entire crew might be lost forever. 2 days later, the Harbinger was back in space, the prototype quantum anchor secured in its cargo hold. Based on the patterns Takashi's team had identified, they predicted the Phantom would appear in the Ta CD system, a former human colony now occupied by a major Vex fleet. "This is insanity," Lieutenant Park said quietly as they prepared to drop out of FTL. "We're one small ship about to enter a system crawling with Vex, hoping to catch a ghost." Elena checked her harness. "You volunteered, Lieutenant." "Never said I wouldn't follow you into hell, Commander. Just noting that's exactly where we're headed." The Harbinger emerged from FTL at the outer edge of the Ta CD system. Immediately, their sensors detected heavy Vex activity, a coordinated attack on the former human colony world. "They're bombarding the surface," reported Ensign Walsh. "Wait, there are still human life signs down there. The underground shelters must have held." Elena felt her chest tighten. The colony had supposedly been evacuated years ago, but clearly some had stayed behind or been unable to escape. Now they were about to be wiped out. "Any sign of the Phantom?" she asked. "Nothing yet," Walsh replied. "But these energy readings, the Vex are using some new kind of weapon. The radiation would make it nearly impossible for the Phantom to phase in safely." Elena made a swift decision. "Take us in closer. We need to draw some of those Vex ships away from the colony." "Commander," Park protested, "we can't take on a Vex fleet." "We don't need to win, just distract them," Elena replied. "The Phantom hunts Vex that are attacking humans. Let's give it a clean shot." The Harbinger accelerated toward the inner system, its stealth systems no match for the sheer number of Vex sensors. They were detected almost immediately. 3 Vex destroyers breaking formation, moving to intercept, Walsh announced. "Good," Elena said grimly. "Let's lead them on a chase." Evasive pattern delta. The Harbinger banked sharply, its engine straining as it danced through space. The Vex vessels followed, their organic mechanical forms rippling as they adjusted to the pursuit. They were slower but more heavily armed. One direct hit would cripple the human ship. "Energy spike," Walsh suddenly called out. "Commander, I'm detecting quantum fluctuations 12 kilometers off our starboard side." Elena's heart raced. On screen, the view screen shifted to show empty space, then a shimmer, like reality itself was being torn. Slowly, the UES Phantom began to materialize, its black hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. "Quantum anchor status," Elena demanded. "Ready," Takashi replied from the engineering station. "But we need to get closer and match their phase harmonics exactly." "Taking us in," Park said, his hands flying over the controls. The Harbinger surged forward, closing the distance to the partially materialized Phantom. The Vex destroyers, momentarily confused by the new contact, adjusted their course to target both human vessels. "They're firing," Walsh shouted. Energy beams lanced through space from the lead Vex destroyer. Most missed, but one grazed the Harbinger's port side, sending the ship into a spin. Stabilizers failing. Park fought with the controls, eventually bringing the ship back on course. "The Phantom is returning fire," Walsh reported. Indeed, weapons fire erupted from the ghost ship, striking the Vex destroyers with unerring accuracy. Two of the alien vessels exploded in spectacular fashion, while the third broke off its attack, retreating toward the main fleet. "Now's our chance," Elena said. "Activate the quantum anchor." Dr. Takashi initiated the sequence. From the Harbinger's cargo hold, a device began emitting precisely calibrated quantum waves, designed to resonate with the Phantom's unique dimensional signature. "Establishing contact," Takashi reported. "The field is stabilizing." For the first time, the Phantom became fully visible, no longer flickering or transparent. It was a magnificent sight. A sleek, predatory vessel painted in deep space black, its hull scared but intact. "Open a channel," Elena ordered. "Channel open." She took a deep breath. "UES Phantom, this is Commander Elena Reyes. We've deployed a quantum anchor that should temporarily stabilize your phase state. Please respond." The comm system crackled, then cleared. "Harbinger, this is Captain Soren Kovac of the UES Phantom. Your anchor is working. We're reading full materialization for the first time in 4 years." There was a pause. "We don't have much time. Our power core can't sustain this state for long. Captain, I need to speak with Science Officer Maya Reyes." Another pause. Then a new voice came through. "Elena, is that really you?" Elena closed her eyes briefly, fighting back tears. "It's me, Maya. We've come to bring you home." "Elena, listen carefully," Maya said urgently. "When the phase drive malfunctioned, it didn't destroy us. It trapped us between dimensions. We can see into normal space, even affect it briefly, but we can't fully return without tearing the ship apart. The quantum anchor is designed to help with that," Elena explained. "Dr. Takashi believes we can modify your phase drive to work in reverse, pulling you completely back into our reality." "It's not that simple," Maya replied. "We've changed. The crew, the ship, we've been exposed to dimensional energies for years. Half of us aren't even fully human anymore." Elena felt a chill. "What do you mean?" "We've adapted to survive. Some of us can phase independently of the ship now. Others have developed sensitivities to energy patterns no human should be able to perceive. If we come back, we don't know what will happen to us." Before Elena could respond, the sensors blared a warning. "Commander," Walsh's voice was tight with fear. "The entire Vex fleet is changing course. They're all coming for us." On the view screen, dozens of Vex vessels were breaking orbit around the colony world, forming up for an attack. They had finally recognized the threat that the Phantom represented. "Captain Kovac," Elena said, "we need to get you and your crew to safety immediately. The quantum anchor can be adjusted to—" "No," Kovac interrupted. "We've been fighting these monsters for years from the shadows. Now we finally have a chance to make a real difference." His voice hardened with resolve. "The colony below. There are still thousands of people alive down there. The Vex were about to finish them off before you arrived." Elena understood immediately. "Captain, you don't have to do this." "Yes, we do," Maya said softly. "Elena, our power core is fusing with dimensional energy. If we fully return to normal space and then overload it, it would create a rupture in space-time." Takashi whispered, horror and awe in his voice. "A dimensional shockwave that could destroy everything within thousands of kilometers." "Exactly," Kovac confirmed. "We can end this fight here and now." The entire Vex fleet, gone in an instant. Elena stared at the view screen, watching as the Vex armada grew closer. Then she looked at the Phantom. Her sister's home for the past 4 years, now about to become her tomb. "Maya, she began. I know, her sister responded gently. But we were dead the moment the phase drive malfunctioned. These past 4 years have been borrowed time. Let us use it to save everyone else. Tears streamed down Elena's face. There has to be another way. The quantum anchor gave us this chance, Maya said. Now we can choose our ending. Please, Elena, let us go. After a long moment, Elena nodded. Lieutenant Park, plot a course away from the Phantom. Maximum speed. Commander, Kovac said, one last thing. Our databanks contain everything we've learned about the Vex, their weaknesses, their communication patterns, even their homeworld coordinates. We're transmitting it all to you now. Data transfer in progress, Walsh confirmed. It's incredible. This could change everything. It will, Kovac said firmly. Humanity will survive, Commander Reyes. Make sure of it. I will, Elena promised. Godspeed, Phantom. As the Harbinger accelerated away from the system, the Phantom moved to intercept the approaching Vex fleet. For the first time in 4 years, it didn't try to hide or fade away. It charged directly toward the heart of the enemy armada, weapons blazing. The last thing Elena saw before the Harbinger jumped to FTL was a blinding flash as the Phantom's core detonated, tearing a hole in reality itself. The dimensional shockwave engulfed the entire Vex fleet in a cascade of energy that defied the laws of physics. 3 weeks later, Elena stood before the Allied Defense Council on Orbital Station Aegis. The room was packed with military leaders and government officials, all eager to hear her report. The data recovered from the Phantom has given us unprecedented insight into Vex technology and strategy, she explained. Already, our scientists have developed countermeasures against their primary weapon systems. Admiral Chen nodded approvingly. And the dimensional weapons potential? Still theoretical, Elena replied carefully. The risks of phase technology remain extreme. I would not recommend pursuing that path again. The truth was more complex. Hidden in Maya's personal files had been schematics for a modified phase drive, one designed not for ships, but for small strike teams. Soldiers who could step between dimensions, strike, and vanish again. Elena had secured this information personally, sharing it only with those she absolutely trusted. The sacrifice of the Phantom and her crew will not be forgotten, the council chairman announced solemnly. Their actions at Ta City have given humanity its first real victory against the Vex. Elena listened to the speeches that followed, her thoughts with her sister and the 200 souls of the Phantom. They had found a way to exist in the impossible space between realities, and then chosen to use their curse as a weapon to save others. As the meeting concluded, Elena approached Admiral Chen privately. I'd like to request command of the First Strike Force using the new anti-Vex protocols, she said. Chen studied her face. This isn't about revenge, is it, Commander? Elena shook her head. It's about finishing what they started. The Phantom showed us that even a ghost can change the course of a war. Very well, Chen agreed. Your new ship is already being prepared. We're calling it the UES Revenant. Elena smiled faintly at the name. Another ghost ship, following in the Phantom's wake, but this one would not be fighting alone. As she left the council chambers, Elena paused by a viewport overlooking Earth. Somewhere out there, in the space between spaces, she liked to think that something of her sister and the Phantom's crew still existed, not gone, but transformed, and in their own way, still fighting. Humanity would survive. She would make sure of it.